5 probably that are somewhere between 90 minutes and 3 hours apiece. So
is it better?
OMG?
I do them for OMG. I do them for Call Tracking Pro. And I've started doing some for Joshua Fletcher as a marketing consultant. So I put these together for my higher end clients with kind of a welcome walkthrough of their brand. And then that's a video they can go back and revisit and watch to see what the problems that need addressing are. And it gets a little FaceTime without me having to, make myself subservient to them and their schedule and everything like that. So we just set up like a 10-minute call. I walk through everything live. They get to kind of see me and ask any quick questions, and then they can just go watch that video again because it's stored.
That's great.
Yeah, it's pretty nice to have.
I think, like I'm getting feedback from you. I'm going to put in my earpiece.
Yeah, that's one thing that you guys will want to check on. I've kind of run mine enough to know what I need to do to minimize that. But if you have like air speakers and you don't have your mic set up to train for the delay time on it, it'll give you like a read, an echo.
Perfect. I was going to ask you if it's better if I have these or not, and I just
generally, generally it keeps everything cleaner.
Okay.
Are you guys hearing a pretty clean audio signal as it switches around?
I'm perfect now that Mick put his earplugs in, so I guess I won't.
Okay.
I could just hear his delay,
Yeah, we should be ready. I've got mine set up here that I can switch over to. It depends on when some people drop on and off, it can change a little bit. So depending on that with Rhonda, when she jumps on, we might have to adjust things a little bit, but that's why it's nice to have the on-screen controls for mute and switching audio feeds as well. That helps out.
So we've got these questions, this long list of questions.
Yep.
And we've assigned it a couple to me, a couple to him, a couple to Jeff. Do you want to do some questions, Fletch?
Why don't you guys take these because you've put them together, and if I have any supplemental questions, I've been looking at them since we jumped on that originally, and I'm kind of thinking of kind of two things. So there's one concept that will be this is kind of like an introduction that'll kind of flesh itself out as we talk to her today, and each of these people actually, and that is whether they are more of like the star or they're the kind of like the discoverer. So a discoverer is somebody who has tirelessly sought this knowledge and then found it and cleaned it up and brought it back as a framework that other people can use. And so then that framework becomes kind of the star. The other one is more of like the Tony Robbins on stage. Like Tony Robbins, the only person who can run a Tony Robbins event. Without him, Tony Robbins doesn't exist. His frameworks are still there, but they're not the star. Tony is. And so I think with each of these, the sooner we can kind of uncover that and tailor the questions to help that, because they both work. But then the questions and the responses and kind of how we frame them up, I think will help a lot with how they're received for the people watching the video, reading the transcript and all that kind of thing. So that's one thought I had. And then the other is in that same vein, the introduction to these people, like how much people feel like they have in common with the person. And like we talked about, like the most successful, or the questions, allude to your most successful, or, the person that you feel, it's most memorable, the transformation that they made. We need to determine whether we want, or whether we think the people listening will relate more to the person or relate more to the students. And so, and it can be both, but depending on how these answers go, I think that's something that we should be mindful of as well, to say, oh, you know, people listening say, oh, I'm just like her. I can do these great things and be like her as well. Or, you know, that story that she related, I have the exact same problems as the person that she talked about. And in 3 months, I would love to be able to have this transformation myself. So the notoriety that she has with the writing the books and the being on the television and all that kind of thing, it lends credibility, but it also potentially adds distance for that relatability factor. It's possible that she is very, very, you know, down to earth and like connects really well, but she's just 20 years down the road from where many people will start on this journey with, you know, potentially wanting to learn from her or be mentored by her. And so that's one of the things I'm kind of listening for as well, to see how that kind of shapes itself up through the questions and answers and her personality and, you know, the tone with the three of us and her today. And, you know, these things tend to be pretty dynamic as well. So you can't always go into one of these knowing how it's going to go. It kind of just depends on the day. So,
well, what I think I'm getting reverb or whatever.
Yeah, you are.
What happened?
It's your internet connection is horrible.
Is it really horrible still?
Yeah.
Ookla.
I mean, it's not horrible, but.
Well, when you said horrible, I took it very personally, and now I feel.
I'm crystal clear, and so is Fletch. You kind of look like a ghost.
What the fuck?
All dingy, and you're not representing the Masters of Possibility brand very well. That's all I'm going to say.
You're out.
I mean, you're going to have to get.
All right, I'm looking at the load speed. It's at 23. The download is 21, 23, 19, 18. I mean, it's high.
Oh, there you go.
Compared to what it has been.
Maybe just that black and white photo that's killing it.
It's pretty cool, huh? Oh,
no, the quality, dude. I just don't have good quality on you. What about you, Fletch? How's he look to you?
Yeah, you guys look fine. The lock on Jeff.
So my download is 19.72 and my upload is 19.85. So I'm okay now.
Well, that just a restart. That's all you did?
Yeah, I turned everything off. All right. Why don't you tell him about Phil's meeting? And I'm going to go to the bathroom before we get started.
So Phil had his meeting today. It went well. It's not going to go on Channel 4, but it might go on CNBC, or he gave us a half a dozen places he thinks it might fit.
Okay.
So he's giving all that contact information over to Phil, and we're just going to set up more meetings.
Okay. And that was a meeting with who today?
He had a meeting with Bob Greenblatt, who's the chairman and CEO of Universal. Yep. So even though Bob oversees certain elements, he doesn't oversee like CNBC, and I believe it's Shark Tank that's on CNBC, and it does very well there. So we're going to pitch that over there.
Okay.
And there's a few others that he threw out. Bravo was one. CNBC, I already mentioned. Gosh, there was another news network. Anyway, we're putting that contact list together this week. These things take time. I mean, very rarely do you walk in and even if they're like, we love it, it still takes a little bit of time. And that's why this book is, I think, important, because as we start giving that book out and building that brand name and we get some traffic, and then it's like, this is already part of the new media that these guys should be exploring.
Sure.
At least a little more than they are.
Yeah, I agree. The more gravity we have there, the easier it's going to be for them to say yes. They're already going to have like 8 yes markers, and then they just have to figure out where it fits.
And let's be honest, we're going to have a strong brand regardless, because we have access to these 10 people. They're giving us their time. They're giving us their interviews. They're giving us a book, you know?
Yeah.
And these guys have a big reach. So if the message
huge.
of your book is
I would imagine they'll want to promote. That's another thing that I've been thinking about is what can we do to help each of these folks want to publicize this project to their own list, like the cred that they get for being part of this new venture, that kind of thing.
It's interesting, but I think the angle is each one of them does a pretty good job on their own. Okay. Like, for instance, Bob will have a seminar that reaches 600 people. But if we bring everybody together in the same forum, we might be able to get them in front of millions, but we need them as a team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's sort of like the angle. Like, look, yeah, you guys can continue doing what you do on your own, but if we have a big team, then.
Here's Rhonda.
Hey, looking good.
Hey, I like that you're wearing your glasses. I've got mine on too.
I was wearing them. I'm so embarrassed. No.
I'll join the group.
I've got some too. I don't want to be left out.
I think for meetings, we should have our glasses on.
Just for the beginning.
Because then we look very serious.
Very professional.
And then when we take off our glasses is when we're on TV.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Meetings,
and everything's blurry.
Meetings, TV.
Meetings.
See how that works?
Love it.
I love it. Okay, so Rhonda, this is Fletch.
Fletch.
Hello, how are you doing?
Fletch is another one of the producers on.
He got his glasses too.
Oh, did he put them on?
Wait. Did he put them on? Yeah, he put them on because he wants to be part of the club.
That's right.
Had to fit in a little bit.
All right. Well, we're the only two that left them on. So.
Well, I can take mine off if you want.
TV.
I'm not taking mine off yet, just in case I have to read something.
Okay, good. Okay, I'll keep them on. Put them off. We'll just you'll just have to it'll be like a little guessing game.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Like what? Rhonda just took them off. What does that mean? Okay.
So before we get
signal.
Before we get started, we just wanted to. Jeff is going to talk to you about the intro that he has written up, and then we're just going to go line by line with these questions. And then if there's any other questions, interjections, clarifications, things that we want to know, we're going to ask you.
I love that.
Yeah, so it's going to be, I know this is going to be weird, it's going to be like a conversation.
And then she was gone.
Get out!
She's, don't run away, come on.
You know what, I was looking at it going, God, I need some light over there.
Oh my gosh. And I love that you have your Emmy over your right shoulder. That's awesome.
Of course. Hello.
Hello. You have to have that there.
You know, I always say, at least I got an Emmy. You don't have to take it out of my dead, cold hands.
It's so cool. So cool. All right. So, Jeff?
Okay. So along those lines, I was going to just, I obviously did my research on a little bit about you, but I think after thinking about it for the last 40 minutes, I think it's better that you introduce yourself, right? You know more about you than I could read off of Wikipedia all week. So,
okay. So you just want me to introduce myself right now? Is that what you want?
Yeah.
And is it just to you boys, or is it to anybody else?
I would say think of it as to anybody else. Right now, it's just us. This is a closed loop. So if there's something you don't like on this.
I'm just going to do what I do at the start of everything. I go, you ready?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Hi, Rhonda Britten here, founder of the Fearless Living Institute, Emmy Award winner, best-selling author. I have been seen by millions. I've been read by hundreds of thousands, and I've taught tens of thousands. I've been considered America's #1 life coach. I'm the first life coach on TV in the world. I've been seen in over 600 episodes of television. I train the most awesome life coaches and blah, 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 blah. London Sunday Times, Good Housekeeping, you name it, I've been there. So I love coaching. I love changing lives, and I am dedicated and devoted to helping people become fearless. That's what I do, because I believe that at the fundamental heart of everything is fear. So if I can help somebody understand how fear works and help them break their fear through unique and individualized exercises, then anything is possible.
See, there's no way I could have done that. But it's good to hear you say that, because that's what this entire process for us is about, bringing the masters that we have together, is to just bring awareness out there to help people. It's a matter of bringing people something that we feel they need. They need to know what they don't know. And I mean, I was a victim of this myself, where I just didn't realize, I just didn't know that this material and people like yourselves were out there to give it to us. So we're very excited to get some questions asked and hear your answers. So
right.
with that said, I think Mick's going to kick it off with the first question.
Okay.
Well, let me just ask real quick. Fletch, are we recording?
Oh yeah, we were recording a little bit before Rhonda jumped on, so we're all good. We can edit
You don't
this
see
after
that
the
little
fact.
live thing in the right corner of your screen?
Yeah,
I
it should be
see it,
something.
but I just wanted to be clear.
All right, we're good.
No,
We're
I
good, Mick.
like that about you a lot. I like clarity. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, from the top, let's do it again.
Okay, good try. That was a great practice
Good
run.
effort, Rhonda.
Let's
Good
go.
effort.
Good effort, Rhonda. All right, so Rhonda,
Yes.
Mick Peterson here. I would like to ask you a few questions.
Okay.
How would you define your life mission?
Oh, that's easy. I'm here to help people understand and master their emotional fears. And this is the deal, that people don't even know they have fear. So people think they're procrastinators. They think they have a fear of failure, rejection, right? They think they get overwhelmed, anxious, perfectionists, procrastinators. They think that is their problem, right? They think procrastination is their problem. They think perfectionism is their problem. And that's a symptom of their problem. But the real core problem is fear at the heart of that. So you can't get perfectionism without fear. You can't get overwhelmed without fear. You can't get perfectionism without fear. So my job is to support people in helping them master their fears so that they can go anywhere, do anything, and meet anyone.
Do people generally know what their fears are, or do you help them bring that out?
They think they know what their fear is. Like if you say to somebody, well, two things will happen. Either I'll say, well, I help people master fear. And they go, I don't have any fears. I'm not afraid. And I go, wow, really? That's so awesome. That's amazing. Really? Congratulations. That's fantastic. And I always say, well, do you want me to I'd like to give you a little test. Just going to give you a little test. And you see, I just want to just make sure that, you're fearless in all areas. And then I'll start asking people like, well, can you say, I love you? Can you say, I forgive you? Do you have negative self-talk? Do you beat yourself up? Do you, feel stuck? Do you procrastinate? Do you ever get stuck in, like the deep, dark hole of, sadness, or do you get stuck in grief and you're not able to move yourself through? And so I just keep asking question after question after question after question. And I actually have this little quiz that I give people. And when I start talking about the symptoms of fear, then they go, oh crap. Oh, what? I mean, they literally are like, what? And then if I'm talking to an audience, right, I go, well, how many people had 80% or more? And literally the whole place raises their hand. And that's when I get their attention, because then they're like, holy crap. So most people, one, don't even know they have any fear. They just don't even talk. They don't talk, I'm scared or I'm afraid. That's just not even in their vocabulary. And then two, if they know they have fear, they actually believe they know what it is, which is usually fear of failure, fear of success, or fear of rejection. And those things are more symptoms of fear than their actual fear themselves. So if you think of me, changing lives on starting over, I didn't sit and just talk about fear all day, because that would be really not really interesting. But more than, working with the symptoms of fear and helping people break those, and then it automatically starts shifting the fear underneath.
Can you brought up symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the symptoms? Like, how do people identify? I'm sure we all fear something, but how do you identify? What are those symptoms?
Well, think of your bad behavior. Think of what you do when you're not pleased with yourself, when you're disappointed in yourself, when you're frustrated with yourself, what you get in trouble for. So for instance, like I've said, so a lot of the symptoms already, like perfectionism. Perfectionism is a symptom. Procrastination is a symptom. Overwhelm is a symptom. Anxiety is a symptom. So you don't get anxiety without having a core fear underneath that's driving that behavior, right? You can't get anxious without having a fear, right? You can't be a procrastinator without having a fear. So, that's what people identify with. That's what people see. That's what people come to us for, right? They come to therapy or coaching for. They don't come because they want to get over their fear. They come because I want to quit procrastinating. I really want to make that job happen. I really want to start my business. I really want to fall in love. I really want to get married. I really want to lose 50 pounds. I really want to, whatever that is why they come to us. They don't come because of fear. They don't even know they have any. So my job is I always work on two planes. One is the problem they think they're coming to me for. And on the other one is helping them master their fear. That is kind of like that thing I'm always doing underneath it, right? But in their view, I'm helping them master whatever it is that they think they're stuck with.
Now, I know you've written several books. Do all of the books cover this in some fashion, or is there a specific book that is dialed into the fear?
Fearless Living is basically my philosophy on fear, and I help you identify what I call the wheel. So I believe that we all have an individualized and personalized core fear, and that, like I said, is the wheel of fear. And then we have what I've discovered and created as the wheel of freedom, which helps kind of break that fear. So that's Fearless Living. Fearless Loving is all about falling in love with yourself, but also falling in love with others. Change Your Life in 30 Days is really my 30-day plan, an action step a day. Like you are on it. It's like your toolkit. It's like you are on fire. It's like boot camp. And then Do I Look Fat? And this is all about body image. And right now I'm writing my book about Dark Night of the Soul.
Ooh, that sounds heavy.
It does.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, we look forward to reading that one.
Wow. So where do your inspirations come from when you write a new book or you create a new program? And then when you do identify them, how do you take action on them so that you bring them to the millions of people that follow you?
Well, let's just step back a minute, because I created Fearless Living in order to save my own life. I really wasn't thinking about anybody else. And it was only in the changing of my own life and people started recognizing it, and it started making an impact on others just by seeing me do it, that I actually even thought that it could help other people. I didn't even know it could help other people. It didn't even occur to me that it could help other people. And so that started, 22 years ago, when me starting to coach other people, right? And, that's a story in and of itself. So what happens when I get it, what inspires me? Human beings. I am completely enthralled and devoted to the unfolding of the soul of human beings. And I believe to my core that we are all meant to live the life our soul intended. And that soul is trying to express itself and trying to help you become who you're meant to be, who you were born to be, right? And so when a person asks me a question, or they basically ask me a question or present a problem to me, that inspires me and moves me. And that causes me to create a program. So creating a program is all intuitive for me. I just go to town and I create it. I just do it. So I have over, 12, 15 courses. I have thousands and thousands of hours of video. I have a lot of content.
Fantastic. I have a question.
Yes.
Why do you think people come to you specifically for help?
I think they trust me. I think people trust me because one, today, for instance, is June 15th. And June 15th is a day that my parents died. My father, as you know, murdered my mother and committed suicide. And today's the day that happened, so many years ago. And I know, it's kind of cool that we're meeting today.
I mean, I wish I would have known that. Not that would have, what a totally different intro. But wow, I didn't realize that. Wow, this is a special day in a way.
It's a special day. It's a special day. So I find it fascinating that we're meeting today. So it's a special day. And so now I forgot your question.
Okay. Why do you think people come to you specifically?
Because they trust me. Most self-help people, if you look at the self-help industry out there, most self-help people have read a book and are telling you about what they read. They really have not lived what they've read. They're just good speakers, good writers, good marketers, but they actually haven't the check marks, the scars, the wounds, right? The stripes, the whatever you want to call it, the medals, the badges, whatever you want to call it. They haven't done it themselves, not really. And
right.
So I've done it, and people know I've done it. And I've done it once, I've done it twice, 3 times. I was an alcoholic. I had 3 suicide attempts. I can go through all the times I had to, quote unquote, start over, that I had to choose myself, that I had to save myself, that I had to figure this out, right? So I think people trust that. They trust me because they know I'm not reading a book, that it's really from my own life experience.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating because that's the core of why we reached out to you in the first place. It's the core mission of the Masters of Possibility, is to show the people out there that it can be overcome. And it's funny, you might be one of, I shouldn't say that, but you're definitely one of the ones that not only have lived it, but your students, and we can't wait to interview one of your students. I hope we can.
Yeah, of course.
That's the whole purpose of the show, is to show, not just read it, like you say, but to show the actual outcome. Like,
And
look
the
how successful
unfolding of
you
it.
are. You know, we're very excited about that.
And that's the thing, when I've done my 600 episodes of television, one of the good things is I was never scripted, right? And I'll never forget the first television show, the very first reality show in the world about changing lives was in England. My show the first season, it was called Life Doctor, and the second was Help Me Rhonda. And I remember the very first, I'm sitting down with the production company, right? And we're starting to, pick the people and starting to create the show, so to speak. And the producer looks at me, the executive producer looks at me, okay, so what are you going to do with this person? And it's we have a 30-day shoot. What are you going to do with this person? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know yet, and I really do work intuitively. I'm very creative. All the exercises that you see on Starting Over or Help Me Rhonda or Celebrity Fit Club, I created. I'm the one that went like, I know what I want to do with them, so I'm very good at coming up with an individualized, personalized exercise that's really going to have you go, holy crapola, and have that change that, you can see, you can see it and you can hear it and you watch it. That's what's fascinating, right? That's what people love. They love to watch another soul unfold. It gives them hope.
That's well said. Watch another, yeah, I agree. Okay, so as having been the very first life coach on television, can you tell us about your experience and how you grew personally and professionally from it?
Oh, God. Yeah. I believe that my work is a spiritual journey, and I believe that my work always calls me to a greater unfoldment of my own soul. So I'm not interested in staying the same. That doesn't interest me at all. My core value is learning and growing. Like, I literally want to grow. I literally want to become more. So when you're coaching somebody and you're an awake coach, you can't coach somebody else without it impacting your life. I say things out of my mouth that, one, I don't even know that I know. That's like one of the fascinating things. When I teach or when I speak, I'm always recorded because I have no idea what's possible to come out of my mouth. And I'll say things that I'll be like, that was good. I mean, like, that was like, oh my God, that was really good. Did somebody write that down? That was good. So whenever I'm teaching, like I teach next week in Minneapolis, somebody in the back of the room is assigned to actually keep track of what I'm saying. So, and that's how I write things. That's how I get new ideas. It's through the teaching, the speaking, the questions that I grow, change, and shift. And so that I become more me. I mean, my job is to become more loving. My job is to become more confident, more courageous, more pure, more light, I'm just going to go back to love. My job is to become more loving. So, and I have no problem doing that, being very clear and very blunt.
That's great.
Because I think that's what you need sometimes, you just need to be told the truth, just told the truth.
So true.
So
ties back into your fear thing, right? When people aren't blunt, it kind of ties back into that fear factor, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, again, I think it's, as the coach, I've got to have more courage than anybody in the room, right? I've got to be the one that sees beyond what they see. I've got to be having the courage to say what needs to be said. I've got to be the one in the room that actually is willing to do whatever needs to happen in order for that change to happen. So that's my job. So I have to grow into that all the time. I mean, being on TV was a whole, being on TV is not, I find this I just find this so funny after I've done 600 episodes, because people come, I've told you this before, I think in our first meeting we had this, like, people come up to me and go, oh, Rhonda, I want to be on TV. And I'm like this, you couldn't handle TV, because they have no clue what they're getting involved in. They just see me on TV and they go, I want to do that. It's like, I don't think you do. You know, it's full devotion, and most people can't give their devotion. They just can't. They just won't. So I have to learn to be a better me on TV.
Well, I would disagree, but okay. So I think Mick is lined up for the next question.
Awesome.
Well, speaking of awesome, I think you're pretty awesome.
Oh, thank you.
And you couldn't have learned it all by yourself. I mean, I understand you're tapped in and you're intuitive, but who has been the most influential person, mentor, or teacher that you've had in your life?
Probably Paul Roth. Paul Roth was a man I was working with. So through a series of events, you know, blah, 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 could go on. But Paul Roth ended up being a client of mine. At the time, I ran my own PR agency for like solo entrepreneurs. And Paul was one of my clients, and he was one of the very first life coaches. Like he called himself a coach before anybody called himself a coach. And I started working with him more than being his publicist, but really working in his office because I was completely fascinated with his work. I mean, he's brilliant. He's still alive today, and he is by far one of the most brilliant people I've ever met. And he would say to me all the time, Rhonda, you're going to be a better coach than me. And I would be like, I have no desire to listen to people's problems. I am so never going to be a coach. And he would always say, well, you're going to be a better coach than me. I'd be like, no, I'm not listening to people's problems. I don't care about people's problems. I'm not listening to people's problems. He goes, Rhonda, you're going to be a better coach than me. And I don't know if I'm a better coach than him, but the point is that he saw me as a coach before I ever thought I could be a coach, or he saw in me what was possible, you know? And then Reverend Michael Beckwith, who you know, he was one of my mentors. And Reverend Michael, because I'm a practitioner at Agape, I was in ministerial school for a while. And so when I went through graduation for practitioner training, Reverend Michael, he talks to you, you know, he says some words of wisdom to you, or, you know, whatever he's inspired to say. And this was, you know, way before TV. Again, I was a publicist. I wasn't doing any of this yet. And he looked at me and he goes, he saw my life unfold, and he goes, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to you? I don't even know how to tell you what's about to happen to you. And I went, okay, all right, whatever. I don't know. But I would say Paul Roth, if it's a human being, Reverend Michael, a human being, Marianne Williamson, a human being. Yeah, I would say that.
And do you think that it was their belief in you rather than your own belief in yourself that?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when people say you can't love somebody else without loving yourself, there is truth to that. So I'm going to put that aside. Is that true? Yes, it's true. I'm going to put that aside because I also believe that you can't actually love yourself until somebody loves you first. You know, so you can only actually accept so much love or receive or believe, etc., based on the theory of like love, love, love. But, you know, until Paul believed in me and saw something more than myself, you know, I just saw myself as an ex-alcoholic, 3 suicide attempts. I was really into self-growth and personal development and spirituality, but I still identified myself with there's something wrong with me. You know what I mean? So, and I think that's most people. I think most people who are on the self-development path, personal path, if they really told themselves the truth, they are still battling within to actually get over the hump of being good enough. They act like they have gotten over the hump. They tell you they've been over the hump, but they actually haven't gotten over the hump. They still have negative self-talk. They still beat themselves up. They still get confused and overwhelmed. They still have that inner voice that goes on. So this is my theory.
All right, next question. With all your coaching experience, in your opinion, what stops people from living the life of their dreams?
Well, I think I've answered that. Fear, 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 and fear. And again, people won't tell you that. So I just really want you to hear that. I'm very aware we're not going to create a show that I talk about fear every time. But if you and I want to really talk about the psychological aspects or the spiritual aspects or whatever we want to say, you know, the word fear in the Bible was 365 times or something crazy like that. It's the most used word in the Bible. And every single personal development self-help is at the heart fear. I'm just the one has risen my hand the most and said, yes, and oh, by the way, I know the solution. So we can talk about how that shows up in low self-esteem. We can talk about how that lack of confidence. We can talk about how that they don't believe in themselves. We can talk about their lack of hope. All of that is true. And whatever words they use will be the words I use, right? So if they say, I don't have any hope, I'll be like, you don't have any hope, right? Or if they say, I don't believe in myself, I'll be like, you don't believe in yourself, right? So we're going to use the language that the person brings. But between me and you and the lamppost and my cat here, who's wanting to say hello, is like,
Hi, Kitty.
hi, kitty. I believe that we all have to face, quote unquote, the fear of the demon. It's part of our neurobiology, blah, 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 blah. So it's part of our makeup. It's part of our spiritual background. It's part of our psychology. I mean, it's part of us.
It's actually pretty fascinating. Now you got me thinking about it. So it doesn't really matter what I think is stopping me from living my dreams. At the bottom of that reason, you're saying it's fear.
Period. End of story.
Back to fear.
So you can tell me anything you want. You can, like, I can say to you, well, my father killed my mother and killed himself. Of course, it's the reason why, right? And everybody would go like, yes, that's reasonable. Yes, of course. I use the example when I speak about, like, if I was on the side of the road drunk and homeless, nobody would go, what happened to Rhonda? They'd all go, well, you know what happened to Rhonda, right? So we use our excuses as reasons and rationales to have a certain belief about ourselves. But all those are based on lies that we've been told or tell ourselves. And because we don't understand how fear works, and neuroscience is wonderful. I'm a neuroscience junkie, but knowing your hippocampus and your neurobiology doesn't help you when you're in the middle of a fight with your spouse. It doesn't help you. You actually have to know what to do. And I'm very focused on action steps and doing. I'm not interested in talking about it. I'm interested in doing something about it and having you think different, feel differently, act differently, take different action. Come on. I think my cat wants to be on TV.
Apparently.
Yeah. So at the heart of it all, you got it. It's when you get down to it, dig the layers, right? Down the bottom, we got fear.
Got fear. Okay. Your website is fearlessliving.org. Where did the name come from and why?
It came to me through my intuition. Or God, whatever you want to, whatever you believe, God, intuition, whatever that is. Everything was Rhonda Britten, and I remember I was walking through my house because my first workshop was called Ready to Have a Miracle. I've had so many different names for my workshops, and then I was kind of looking for a theme, so to speak, a name, something, some name for my business, and it just came to me very clearly. Call it Fearless Living, and I was like, Fearless Living, okay, and so it's been called Fearless Living. Gosh, for 15 years, maybe 18 years, something like that.
Yeah, it's a great title.
Yeah, and I'll just say one thing about it is, fear isn't about jumping out of a plane for me. It really is about jumping into life, and it's about having the courage to face yourself. So you can never get rid of fear. There are some self-help people that say you can get rid of fear. And I always say, if somebody says to you, you can get rid of fear, you don't ever have to be afraid again. I always go, really? When's the lobotomy? Because it's part of our neurobiology. It's how we're wired. So there's ways to master it, and there's ways to work around it, but you can't get rid of it. You're not meant to get rid of it. So that's not the point, right? The point is to build a relationship with it so that it never stops you.
Is that where you get that term, face your fear?
Face your fear, feel the fear and do it anyway, false evidence appearing real. All those work for people depending on their way they come to us, right? I actually want you to master your fear. I actually want you to know how it works, build a relationship with it. I want you to be you and fear like this, because once you and fear are like this, you have choice. So facing your fear, or or, feel the fear and do it anyway, is to me trying to use willpower to kind of get over a problem. Like, I'm going to use willpower and I'm going to make it happen. That can only last so long because that energy level can only be maintained so long. So I don't want to use willpower. I actually want to use something else. I want to use your true essence in order to move you through it. So I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. It's just my mind's just spinning on how to build the relationship. I'm going to have to get deeper into your books on how to. No, really, when you think about it, it's like, how do you build a relationship with fear?
Yeah,
It's fascinating.
Well, I have a fundamental belief that fear is as smart as we are, educated as we are, spiritual as we are, knowledgeable as we are. So everything we use can be used in service to fear or freedom. And it's the choice point, your choice point as a human being, to decide if you're going to have your belief system and your value system be used by fear or by used by freedom. So it's your choice, right? But it's going to be used by somebody. And fear is just a lot smarter.
So, I mean, maybe this is the appropriate time. I don't think it's in our question list, but what do you fear? I mean, is there one main fear that is in your life? Or?
Yeah, so my wheel of fear, so just going back to my work, my actual work, my wheel of fear is, my core fear is loser. And my core, what I call the core negative feeling, is worthless. Okay. So was I ever called a loser growing up? No. Was I ever told I was worthless growing up? No. That's why when people tell me, oh, I know what my fear is, my father called me lazy all the time, I'm like, yeah, that's not your core fear. That's a symptom of your fear. You have a way deeper fear than that. So that's the wheel of fear. But my area of life that my fears show up the most are intimate relationships. Yay me. Yay.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Mick, I feel like I've been doing an awful lot of talking, so I'm going to let you pick up some questions.
Okay, so give me an example here. If someone is stuck or living in fear, how can you help them to achieve breakthroughs with your work so that they can live their life fearlessly, or the life that they want?
Well, that's a generic question, and so I would need a specific example, because it's going to change based on the specific problem that come with me. So it's not prescriptive, like one size fits all, right? So if you come to me, I can't date, right? Like, so I've been single for 12 years. I want to fall in love. Okay. That's one scenario. Where another one is like, I want to triple my income, is another scenario. One is I want to quit my job, is another scenario. So you create inside the circumstances or the problem that they present, right? That's the only way it will become personalized enough for them to really have the change. So if I just give you generic information, it's going to be nice. It'll be like, oh, that's nice, but it won't move you emotionally. Like, we have to, what I do is I create visceral exercises for a visceral response, because people's problems are visceral. They're not intellectual. If you've been single 12 years and you're sleeping in your bed alone and you drink yourself to sleep because you can't stand being alone one more minute, that's a visceral problem. You see another couple happy laughing down the street, it breaks your heart. You can't feed your family, and so you want to triple your income. I mean, you take them to pizza once a week, but you really want to treat them better, and you want to buy that house, and you're in a 1-bedroom apartment with your 3 kids. That's a visceral problem. That keeps you up at night. That's emotional. So when you talk generic, if somebody can give you a generic answer to that, they're not actually dealing in the visceral world. They're using your intellect to bypass that, and you can't really solve somebody's problem on the intellectual level. It's got to be visceral. So what I do is I actually find out their words, their problem, their circumstance, what's going on in them, and then I use their language and what they're doing and shift it back to solve their problem. And then it becomes very visceral, very visceral. If I tell somebody to break down a wall, and it represents all single men they've ever wanted to date, or every man that broke their heart, it is a very different breaking down the wall than break that wall down. Those are your fears. They could give a crap. But if I say, those are every man that broke your heart, so you have to personalize it. And I think that's what I'm really good at, because I don't take people's hearts lightly, and I don't take their problems lightly. I absolutely believe that their problem is truly their problem. And I know it's causing them heartache and suffering. And so I'm going to deal on the, I'm going to use the language and the examples that they give me so that it stays real for them, so they can really make the change. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Completely.
Yeah.
Wow.
What the majority of your work, is it one-on-one? Do you do a lot of one-on-one, or do you do?
No, not anymore. I don't do a lot of one-on-one necessarily anymore. I only do maybe 2 one-on-one clients a week. Most of my work now is, 1, I'm writing a new book. 2, I train coaches. 3, I teach workshops. 4, I speak. So most of my work now, and again, it changes and varies, of course. But most of my work is group work or writing or teaching.
All right. Well, speaking of your cumulative body of work, looking forward, what is your dream for the future?
Well, I want, so I'm going to, the thing that I'm creating right now, I'm creating a new podcast called Master Coach Mindset. And, I have been a life coach for over 22 years, and most coaches actually don't know what they're doing, and they haven't been trained properly, and they actually don't know what coaching is. And most coaches tell rather than coach. And most people, they don't really have the skill set of a coach, even though they have the label of a coach, because they haven't been trained. So the Master Coach Mindset is all about basically proper training and advanced training. So the next few years, I'm really going to share every single thing I know about coaching on this podcast and through a membership site, so that I can, 1, be seen as the #1 coach in the world, and 2, that I can share everything I know, so my legacy is created, and so there's a body of work for coaches that they can use. So I'll make coaches better.
So what is the favorite product or program or book that you've written? I mean, I know that it's like choosing your children or whatever, but which one do you really resonate with, or do you see other people resonating with in terms of the results that they get and the way it changes their lives?
Well, I don't create a course unless I'm really in tune and really moved to create it, because it's work, it's my heart on a plate, as you said. Mm-hmm. So all my courses, of course, I can't, of course, they're all very good and they all change lives. If you're asking me what's the most important course that I teach, that's the Fearless Living Training Program, because it is fearless living in action, right? It's the course that is all about how fear works. Then its companion. So what I always say is Fearless Living Training Program and Change Your Life in 30 Days are 2 sides of the same coin. Fearless Living is the philosophy and the process of how to master fear, and Change Your Life in 30 Days is a 30-day, basically, like I said, boot camp workbook of all the tools. So those 2 things together actually are a comprehensive program. So those 2 classes are probably the 2 most important ones. Now, 21 Days of Self-Love kicks some serious ass as well. It's like amazing. But I would say Fearless Living Training Program and Change Your Life in 30 Days are my 2 most important classes that everybody should take.
Wow, that's great. From all the people that you've helped, whose stories touched you the most and why? And if you can't say their names, we understand. But.
No, I'm just trying to think of, I've been coaching for 22 years. I have thousands and thousands of stories. I think about, on the first TV show I did, Life Doctor, one of the women that I worked with, she was a cleaner of a restaurant, and she filled in waitressing when she could, but she was really the cleaner. And she wanted to be the restaurant manager. And in 4 days, she was the restaurant manager.
Wow.
And just to watch her transformation was just humbling, right? Just shockingly humbling. But that happens all the time. So, I mean, I had a client who came to me and said, I want to get married within 1 year. And she wasn't even dating anybody. She was married within that 1 year. I've helped, I mean, you name it, I've done it. So it's really hard to say. I mean, there's just,
Well, how about this? Because you want to think about it, and what we would like to do, because the whole theme of what we're doing is to introduce the coaches and talk to one of your successful.
Oh yeah, I would have you probably meet with Jennifer, because I just, as you asked it earlier, I thought of her. You know, Jennifer is articulate, so she would be, you know, she'd be able to articulate things, you know, in a very impactful and powerful way. So I think Jennifer would be a good person to interview. Larissa might be a really good person to interview, but yeah, I would think those two would probably be the things on top of my head that I could, because I just talked to Jennifer today is why she's on my mind. I just had a talk with her this morning. So Jennifer and Larissa might be the people that I turn you on to, or Sheris also is a client of mine, a private client of mine who's, you know, just, again, I can give you various names. You can tell me a problem that you want, if you have a certain kind of problem, or if you just want to interview a couple people, then I'll just.
I really want to get someone in there that's really has taken your courses and applied it to their life and found success. That's what we really want to show. You know, everyone reads books, they can watch all these videos, and you put the book down, but you still don't see the results. So you go back into your own way of doing things, right?
Right.
What we want to show is, hey, really pay attention to what Rhonda is saying, take her course, look what happens when you actually follow the steps of this course.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the whole process that we're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this has been fantastic. I don't have any more questions. How about you guys?
I just think you're so awesome, Rhonda. You look like you've been on TV. You really do. At least you didn't laugh when I just said hello.
I will accept it.
Okay, good.
I will say
yes. So Fletch, he's not normally this quiet. He's quite a talker, and he's very interesting and wonderful. He's our behind-the-scenes internet marketer guy, genius, one of the best internet marketers in the world, and
that's what he built over. That's what he told you.
80 million websites. What? Yeah.
I don't believe that. Come on, Fletch.
He doesn't.
Web pages, Mick, but yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant. Web pages.
Get your facts straight, Mick.
So, if you're gonna brag about me, you got to get the facts right.
That's right, Fletch? That's right. That's right.
Oh, you know what? It's been really interesting to be on, Rhonda, and like they said, I handle a lot more of the technical side of things and the marketing. But one of kind of the meta strategies I use in my life is really seeking understanding. Mm-hmm. Are there a few things you could talk about with fear and some key elements or facets that would help people start to understand it better? Yes. And their relationship with it and what it can do in their life?
Yes. You want it now?
I would like teasers. Give me some teasers, and then we can use those as headlines to get people into the course.
There's yes. I mean, obviously, like one of the things that I said earlier is, you know, fear is as smart as you are, as educated as you are, as spiritual as you, and knowledgeable as you are. And fear only has one job and one job only, and that's to keep you safe. So, you know, fear is not here to. Fear does not want you to be in the unknown. So if you think of the unknown versus the known, and what's the known? The past. Right? And what are we afraid of? The past. And what are we hoping to get away from? Oh, the past. And what has a hold on us? The past. And the why that is because it's known. We know that, right? And even though we don't want to relive that, even though we don't want to repeat that, it is what we know. And so fear always aims for the known because it can guarantee your safety. So fear's not interested in having you like break through and have make $1 million. No, something bad could happen. It doesn't want you to fall in love with some crazy person. That something bad could happen, right? So fear's always like, well, what bad could happen? I got to keep you safe. So it's always choosing the safe, stuck, small route, right? So just looking at your behaviors. So one of the first things I do with clients is what are your fear responses? And so I have them start keeping track of all the ways that they that they think what their problems are. Again, procrastination, anxious. Oh, I don't take action. I get angry in the car when I'm driving. So starting to keep track of those fear responses is critical, because it's how fear owns you. It's how fear owns you. And so once you start understanding your fear responses, and you can start seeing your wheel of fear, starting at the beginning of your wheel of fear, then when we get to the wheel of freedom, you get it. It like clicks, and peace of mind happens. You get it. You get why you've made every decision in the world. You get why you married, why you got divorced, why you went to school, why you didn't go to school, why you took that job, why you didn't take that job. It all makes sense. So people are so confused on their behaviors, not understanding why they do what they do. Once you understand how fear works, you'll know exactly why you do what you do and why you did what you did. So I always say that freedom equals our ability to live in the unknown. So your ability to live in the unknown, usually you need to have somebody hold your hand to do it, which is me.
So then for you, fear is probably one of the most motivational factors for people making decisions in a life that's maybe not fully conscious yet. Would that be?
Yeah, absolutely, because it's feelings based, right? So fear uses our feelings, right? And so feelings, right? We make our decisions, as you know, by feelings. That's why you're good at what you do. You use feelings, right? And so you activate, right, their amygdala, you activate their hippocampus, you activate it through, NLP, et cetera, so that then they have to have what they have to have, right? So you're using it to have them purchase a product, right? And you're taking them down through a process. Well, they're doing that themselves without knowing it. But how fear is using it is to keep them choosing the same thing, even though it may look different, even though they think it's a different decision, it's the same decision. That make sense?
Yeah. So then as people become more aware of these symptoms or these triggers that they can see in their own behavior, it's like a red flag to say, okay, fear is driving this decision. Yeah. Let me kind of wake up a little bit here and sort this out better.
And with the Wheel of Freedom, I tell you exactly what to do, right? So you have a whole litany of choices to make, right? And so I have you pick things like, okay, if you're at a network meeting, if you're on a date, if you're with your family, if you're alone, I'm going to have you actually have a plethora of tools so that, oh, I'm alone and I'm feeling desperate. Okay, great. What can I do? Right? Oh, I'm on a date and the guy, I want to slap him, right? Like, what do I do? Right? So it's not this airy-fairy, oh, just follow the intuition. No, when you're in fear, you can't remember diddly squat. So you got to make it really super simple so people can take that action.
Yeah, I love it. That definitely helps me understand where you come from, and the actionable steps and those flags, those definitive things that say, I need to do something different here, are, I think, critical. Tactically and strategically.
A lot of courage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the majority of your clientele? In other words, are they searching for relationships? Do they have drug addiction or alcohol abuse, or is it just a broad spectrum?
Yeah, drug addiction and alcoholism and all those things, suicide tendencies, et cetera. Have I helped people with that? Yes, but that's really in the realm of therapy rather than coaching. And again, not that I haven't helped people do that, but I don't think that's, it may not be the best, it may not be the most consciously awake choice. Let's put it that way, because it sets up a precedent that necessarily isn't the best thing for the public, right? So I have clients come, you name it. I've done 600 episodes of television, so every single episode had a different type of person, right? So I can't even think of anything that I probably haven't helped. I've helped people learn how to drive a car, right? I've helped people, again, fall in love. I helped people empty nesters. I've helped, you name it, I've done it. Lose weight. I had a woman who had, bypass surgery. And of course she needed to really understand what that weight meant so that she could actually not gain the weight back. And she hasn't gained the weight back. And as you know, probably 70 to 80% of people with bypass surgery gain the weight back.
Wow.
So, you actually have to deal with the issue, not just deal with the symptoms. So that's what I do. I deal with the issue rather than symptoms. I honor the symptoms and I'll share the symptoms. We'll talk about the symptoms, but we're going to go beyond the symptoms. Yeah.
Fantastic.
All right, boys, anything else?
This was fantastic.
It was.
We really
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time.
You are very
Thank you so much. This was great. And you are our kickoff. You are our first interview.
Oh boy. All right.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And
It's going to follow.
well, and we're glad that you had great time in Spain,
I did.
and glad that you're back, and wherever your journeys take you, good luck and have fun and do good work. Continue to do good work.
Thank you. Thank
We
you.
will reach out to you. We will reach out to you to get some of your clients' contact information
Groovy.
later this week. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for meeting all of you. I really appreciated it. Thank you for your time. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Rhonda.
Bye,
Thanks,
Rhonda.
guys.
Thank you. Bye.